Welcome to the Mom Squared podcast. We're your hosts, Bekah Denner
and Faith Denner.
And we are so excited to bring to you a podcast all about motherhood from our perspective as moms to 3 kids, 3 and under. Well, let's get started.
So, my name's Faith, and I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. My boy is 3, my girl is 2, and my other girl is 1. I was, oh man, where was I born? I was born in Colorado. But I only spent a year there. And then we moved to Virginia until I don't know how old. I don't know how old I was. I was probably 6 or 7. And then we moved to South America, Bolivia, and I grew up with 6 older brothers and 4 little sisters. So I am very tomboy. Like today I'm wearing like black loose pants and like I don't know. I'm not like some days I'm like I get dressed up, I wear dresses, I do my nails, I love makeup, I love pink and purple. Purple is like my favorite color. I just like the aesthetic of pink.
Oh,
But
that's a good fact to know. I didn't know that.
yeah, I'm like a huge purple person. Like, oh my goodness. Purple people are a different breed. We don't just do purple. Like we don't just like purple, we do purple. So it's like everything's purple, but I like the aesthetic of white and pink. So that's what I did with my desk. Anyways, I grew up very much like my mom called it my 50-50 because I was like 50% of the time I was the most girly, like princess dresses, Barbies, Polly Pockets, like all of those kinds of things. And then at the same time, I'd be like rolling around in the mud with messy hair and like I couldn't keep a braid in my hair to save my life.
So you were Mia?
Yeah, literally. I was the princess dress in the mud kind of girl. Like I loved the princess dress and I didn't want to take it off, but I wasn't afraid to get it dirty. And my mom's favorite story for me was like I was like maybe 2 years old and I saw a spider and I was like, "Ew, a spider." And she was like, "Get one of your brothers to kill it." And I went, "No, I got it." And I killed it myself. And she was like, "You were scared of it like a little girl,
That's
but then you were like,
hilarious.
I don't have a problem killing it." Um but she always called it my 50-50, and I feel like I still very much have a 50-50. Like 50% of the times I'm in sweatpants, don't want to put any effort into my appearance. And then the other parts I'm like, I'm going to do a full face of makeup today and braid my hair and like wear a dress. um and yeah, so then I met Tim and the Denners when I was 11 years old at Sandy Cove, which is a summer camp. It was homeschool week, and his parents were the co-speakers, and my parents were the speakers. And he became friends with my brothers first, 2 of my brothers, Josh and David. And I kind of became friends with him through that. And then we kind of just knew each other for years. I dated someone else, a couple other guys, and then I saw him in 2016 for the first time in years, and I was like, "Hmm, he is grown up." And I was like, but I was dating someone at the time. And then when me and that guy broke up, I kind of slid into his DMs and I was like, "Hey, so we broke up. What's up?"
I'm single
And
now.
yeah. And he was very much like, "I don't want to be your rebound." Like he said that. Like he was very much like, "I don't want to be your rebound. Like I think you need to take your time." And then my brother passed away and he came to the funeral, which was huge. Not a lot of people did. And so he flew across the country to come to the funeral. And I remember hugging him. Like when he showed up, he got out of the Uber. It's like a movie scene moment, right? So, like, I'm walking into the church and I'm about to see my brother's coffin for the first time. And Tim comes up in the walk, like in the road as I'm crossing the street to go into the church Tim gets out of the taxi and comes over and hugs me and walks in with me. And I remember when I hugged him, I was like, I'm going to marry him. I'm going to have his children. Like, I'm going to marry this man. And I just remember thinking that. And so, yeah, we started dating a little bit after that and got married in 2020 in February. So, right before the world shut down. So, we were actually able to go on a cruise for our honeymoon. But that was like when we got off that cruise ship, we got off of the last voyage that cruise ship ever went on. The Empress of the Seas was the one that we went on from Royal Caribbean. And when we got back, they closed down their cruise line for COVID. And then during COVID, they retired that ship. So we were on the last ever voyage of that cruise.
Wow.
Um, but then the whole world shut down and we both worked and I got pregnant right away. 10 months later, I had Joey, and 9 weeks postpartum, I didn't find out till 14 weeks postpartum, but 9 weeks postpartum, I got pregnant with our second kid, Mia, and she was born in the same year as him. So I had two kids. I had one in January, one in December. So I had two kids in 2021. And
Just sounds awful.
then, yeah. And then in 2022, it was like, I want to say it was 6 months, maybe 7 months after Mia was born, I was on birth control and I found out I was pregnant with twins. And I went in, got the ultrasound, and then we lost one of the twins at around like 11 weeks into the pregnancy. I lost Esther, and then we had Amelia in April of 2023. So I gave birth 3 times in 27 months. And yeah, so that's where we're at.
And I'm Bekah. I have 2 3-year-old boys and a 1.5-year-old little. I gotta think about that for a second. I was like, will she be 2 by then? No, she will. I grew up the youngest of 5, and let me tell you, the youngest are the most spoiled, and it's the greatest thing ever. So if you're trying to decide when to have a youngest, just know they are the best children. And I grew up in Ohio, in the country, which is great because we had like 3 acres to play on, all that stuff. I'm very much a tomboy. I am not a girly girl. No offense to Faith, I really don't. I think pink used to be my absolute favorite color. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I don't like pink. I like greens and blues. But my sisters were like more like the let's not get dirty, let's be indoor thing. And my oldest sister is 10 years older than me, and my other sister is 3 years older than me. And she kind of hit this age where she was like, I don't want to play outside anymore. So I just started hanging out with my brothers, doing all the guy things, and it was great. Made me who I am. Yeah. And then I graduated high school at 16 and went to college and graduated with my bachelor's at 19. It's like one of my best moments in life. You know, say that. And I have a
It's
degree
impressive.
in
It is.
It was. My mom was pushing for it, and I'm really glad she did. But yeah, degree in business administration. I met my now husband Matt in 2019. We got married in 2020, right between COVID being crazy and then them reopening and COVID again. So it was like this 2-week window that things were kind of open that we ended up having our wedding date for. That was great. And then like 10 months later, technically it was probably 9, but because the boys were born early, we had twin boys. And then 16 months after that, we had a little girl. And then, yeah, there we have it. We met each other like November of 2019. So it's been 4 years going into our 5th year. Isn't that awesome? Doesn't that make you feel great?
Makes me feel old, honestly.
I'm going to tell an embarrassing story about you, Faith. And you probably already know which one this is. So, like, our husbands look a lot alike. And so the very first
Oh
time
no.
that you and I met was when it was Thanksgiving. We were in Illinois for Thanksgiving, and Matt was washing dishes,
And
and
I
you came up
kissed him.
and you kissed him on the shoulder thinking it was Tim.
It was like right at the neck too. Like I like kissed him like right in a very personal area. I was like right here.
And then
Oh my
I think he
gosh.
turned and looked at you and you're like, that's not Tim.
And then I
So
turned and I looked across the counter and you were standing there like
I was
this. You're
like,
like,
yeah, I was
what?
so confused
I
what
was
just
like,
happened. I was like, what?
and then I turned bright red, and then I knew that everybody's was gonna run tell Tim. So I jumped up and I ran into the other room and I was like beet red and I was stumbling over my words because I had just kissed another man, like my husband's brother, on a very personal area. And I was like, I didn't know really what I was saying. It just kind of came out and I was like, I kissed your brother. And Tim looked at me and he was like, he has a beard. He was like, how did you mix us up? He has a beard. But what had happened was I was washing the dishes or drying them, one or the other. And Tim was beside me helping me. And then Tim walked away and Matt stepped in. So I knew it had been Tim. But then when Matt stepped in, I didn't notice that it was Matt now and not Tim. And I kissed him. And I'm still embarrassed about that to this day. But the funniest thing is that Tim and I have like an ongoing joke about it. And
Oh, everybody has an ongoing joke about
well,
it.
here's the crazy thing is that I sometimes Tim is in my phone as my wonderful man, and I'll tell Siri to call my wonderful man, and she'll go, calling Matt Denner. And I'm like, no.
She
Uh,
knows. I'm just kidding.
yeah.
So, what our goal is for every podcast is going to be at the very beginning, we're going to talk about either our biggest mom struggle or quote unquote fail we had recently, just to keep it real with you guys, because every day we have something, I'm sure, that we have done that we
Yeah.
consider a fail. And then we're going to talk for about 15 minutes on the topic of the podcast we have that day. We're going to try to keep the podcast to like 20-25 minutes, just so that way you can listen in the morning while you're getting ready for the day or while you're driving around if your kids are not like mine and obsessed with listening to music the whole time. And then we're going to wrap it up with a recipe that we have either just made recently that we suggest or one that we're going to be making in the next week. And we're going to try to have a mom hack or like our favorite mom tip or our favorite mom product or all three if we have lots to share.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we want to do for that.
I mean, I feel like when I look on like online on social media and also like on podcasts and everything, you see either really, really big families or you see people who have like older kids or people who have like one or two younger kids. There's not a huge representation of people who have like three and under, or three under three, or have toddlers all around the same age and like have to navigate the difficulties of that. And so I think one of the
And
main
also
things.
the joys of it because it is
Yes.
fun.
Yes, it is. It's
It is fun.
honestly
It's just a
it's
lot.
challenging, but it's also like I wouldn't change it for the world. Like it is the best thing ever. It is so much fun. It's pretty adventurous.
Yeah.
But I would say I really want to discuss like the joys of it and like give a lot of encouragement to those out there who might have like two under two or three two and under, which is what I had up until this month, um,
Same.
or three and under, and yeah, I want to do a lot of representation of that and just like talk about the joys and the challenges and the journey of all of that, as well as um, I want to have a lot of discussion about like our faith and raising children in the faith and raising children in a world that's not really conducive to Christian living or Christian raising. I feel like it's really difficult nowadays to hold fast to the steady Christian way of raising children. And we live in a society that's not very welcoming of that. And so I do want to talk a lot about that as well.
Yeah. And
Um,
also, I think of like, I think you kind of already mentioned this a little bit about the social media, but just like, I feel like when
yes.
we look on social media, I mean, even within like families, like sisters or whatever, sometimes you compare your children to other children or your
Yes.
siblings' children or your house to other people's house. And I'm sure when people come to my house when it's a planned visit, they probably think I have my life so put together. But if you saw my house right now, you would know that is not the case.
I mean, even this room that I'm in right now,
Oh
like you're
my
seeing a
gosh, mine's
corner of my
awful.
room, but I have a full pile of clothes right there that I have to, it's literally right there. I have
I
to
literally have
fold it.
Christmas decor. It's March right now. It is
Like it
March.
looks so
And
nice and dainty over here and sweet and decorated. And I'm like literally staring at a pile of clothing that I have to fold and put away as soon as we're done with this.
yes. But yeah, just like keeping it real because I feel
Hmm.
like nowadays with, Photoshop and everything and like it's so easy. Like you have Google Photos and you can wipe away your messy pile in the background. Like it's so
Yes.
easy to make it look like a perfect world. And I'm even guilty of that when I make like reels or
Yeah.
posts, like I will shove the things out of the way. Just because I'm more like I like the aesthetic of it. I don't really care, but I've thought about like posting like real pictures of my home and be like, this is my house.
Yeah.
You're not in it alone.
Yeah.
um so just like that, because I feel like a lot of times I know personally, like I look at other people and sometimes they'll be like, well, you only have like one kid or you have
Yes.
two kids and your life is so much put together, but realizing that like just because they may have less kids doesn't mean that their life is like any more put together. It's just what
Yeah.
we happen to see. And sometimes
Yeah.
you can get yourself in a pity party. So yeah.
I think another part of that is like we also have good perspectives because like you live in a house with your three and under, and you and your husband work from home, whereas live in an apartment and I work from home with apartment life, but I also am just a full-time stay-at-home mom while he works out of the home. So like I feel like we both have like different like situations even though we
Yeah.
have the same amount of children at around the same age. So I think it's really good. Like I feel like we have different perspectives on a lot of things. Um and I mean, I've even compared myself to like your situation before. I've been like, man, like she's already in a house with like and like, oh, I think about all the time. I'm like, man, like if Tim could get a work from home job so that I could just like get a break every now and then. Um, but I do think it's important to like remember we're all in we all are where we are, and like learning contentment in where you are is super important. That's something I've been working on, is like not always trying to get ahead, not always trying to like go further, but being happy at where I'm at in the moment. That's something that I think also comes with not being pregnant. Because I think when you're pregnant, you're always thinking ahead.
Yes.
You're like, oh, when I have the baby, oh, when I have the baby, oh, when I have the baby. And I've been pregnant for 3 years. And so now not being pregnant, I'm learning to be like, this is where I am. These are my kids. This is like, no big, huge life changes are coming. And I think learning contentment is something that we all should strive to do. And it's hard to do when you are on social media and people do have it better than you
Yeah.
and people are only putting out their fake versions of themselves.
Or you see
So,
all those accounts where like the reels are like, we made $100,000 in the first 4 months. And I'm like,
yeah.
they have like
Yeah.
20 followers on social media. They just started the account. And I was like, are you just doing these reels to get views? Like, I always like, that's
Yeah.
always popping up in my algorithm right now. And I was like, oh, if I could just make $5,000 in 3 months. And I was like, but is this even legit? Like,
Yes,
and just
really.
always like wanting, like, you see these things like, I want this, or Amazon stuff, like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. I see videos, I'm like, I want to buy this, and I'm like, no, you have enough stuff. Your kids have
Yeah.
enough toys. You don't need more.
Oh. Anyway,
But yeah, so that's what we want to do with the podcast. If you have any topics that you want us to cover that you would like to share, you
yes.
can message those to us on Instagram at the Mom
Yeah.
Squared Podcast. And yeah, I think it's been great. We're obviously going to get better
Yeah.
as we go along with this and
Yeah.
stuff. But I feel like for a first intro podcast, gets you an idea of who we are and the why. Not just who we are, but why we're doing this. Oh, we could also talk about how we came up with the idea. So we were in Florida last month, and we were just like at a coffee shop hanging out, and you're like, hey, can I record? For like a reel you were gonna do or whatever. So you just like popped it up and recorded.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what would be so fun to do? We just like do a podcast. And you're like, I want to do a podcast too. So that's kind of how this idea started.
Yeah.
And I do
It
like
was like
that.
a month ago.
Yeah.
It
So
was,
we're doing good progress, I feel
just
like.
yeah.
But I like that even though our lives are so similar, they're still very different. So we have like a very different, like, we have a lot of similarities with our spouses because they're brothers, so they're a lot of like.
Yes.
And stuff, and like, you have what I think is crazier, which was having 3 births in under 3 years. I only had 2 births in under 3 years. So like that's also like a different perspective and stuff too. Anyways,
so
there we have it. Well, we should go clean our house and be productive, I suppose. Before our kids wake up from their
about to
naps.
wake up. I was saying that. I was like, my kid.
Oh, I
Did you hear
them.
that?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I
right
did.
as I said it. Literally right as I said it. He said, Mom.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess that's
like
a good way to end,
know.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're kind of free now. Like, we don't let you have free time.
Literally.
We know.
Literally.
Well,
Okay.
All right.
have a good one.
See you. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Mom Squared podcast today. We really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to share this podcast with your other mom friends and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram at the Mom Squared Podcast or on YouTube, also at the Mom Squared Podcast.